I'm here with Alex, who is a wealthy property owner, I would like to say. And he is going to give us some tips and tell us a little about his journey on how he became a successful property investor.
I was a student in Swansea University. I was living at home because I was too tight to pay for lodgings, and a lot of my friends were renting. I finished my degree, went to do a postgrad, and I thought, what a great idea. I'll rent a house. Me and my friends can live in it, we can have a great time, and I get a house for nothing in 25 years' time. No thought of making a profit. It was just about the time the economy was going wrong, in about just before it actually, in about 1990. So I bought a house. 6 of us moved into it. I was making, if the house was full, £30 a month profit before maintenance. So essentially I was losing money to live there. And I had to work part-time really to fund it. Because, you know, by the time I had to maintain it, paint it, pay for voids, there was nothing in it. If anyone had given me any sensible advice about what I'd actually done, I wouldn't have done it. You know, I bought the property, it was great fun, it was a roller coaster ride, we went out for some lovely nights out, and you know, I loved every bit of it. There was very little regulation back then, especially if you were living as a big group of friends, so there was no sort of fire alarms and HMO stuff to worry about. But probably for the first 5 years, every so often I lost money. Well, anyway.
So I'm guessing you decided not to get into property at the time. Did you were a lecturer or something?
Well, I was doing my postgrad, and I also got myself a job working part-time as a lecturer. I also started up a computing consultancy, and I also was working as a mobile DJ. I had to do something with my money. So despite buying the first property and it really probably being a bit of a stupid idea, I was far too silly to realise it wasn't paying for itself. So I bought another property. And before long I bought another property. And I think at about that point I decided I was going to stop. Lots of building work needed, lots of maintenance needed, regulations were starting to kick in. I'd been very, very lucky to ride my way through the high interest rates of the early 90s when they went up to 17%. I hadn't had very good advice off people about taking endowments and stuff, but one of the good bits of advice, very lucky bits of advice I'd had early on, was to fix my interest rates. Ironically, I've never fixed them since I've written the market, but I fixed all my interest rates first off. I rode through the 17% or whatever it was interest rates, with my interest rates fixed at a fabulous 12%, I believe it was, or 12.9. And just struggled my way on, and really speaking, for 5, 8, 10 years, the properties cost me money every year.
Right. So what made you think that there was some money in property? And obviously with a postgraduate degree you've got a very agile mind, so I'm guessing you would have been looking, how can I make this properly work? How can I actually get an income?
Well, in order to get the income, I realised that you know, I had to spend on my properties to make my properties functional for the tenants, to make them nice. Really speaking, in the days when I started, if I put an advert in the newspaper, as it was then, saying washing machine, the phone literally wouldn't stop ringing. There was so much that landlords were actually doing wrong. You know, almost every property in the city that was rentable was damp and horrible. And for a property not to be damp and horrible, for a property to have reasonable facilities, was absolutely back then unheard of. So my strategy was that if I did that, I could charge higher than normal rents, I could achieve lower than normal voids. I also initially started out with students, but I changed tack about 94 or something, because everybody else was doing students, and what I discovered was nobody much at all in the area were doing professionals. So I branched into that market as well, and that paid off, because again, they were prepared to pay for quality, and if I provided it, then I did well.
I actually have been around a few of Alex's properties, and they're fantastic inside. He's shown me ones that he's converted into, and with extensions and so on, into multiple flats. On your journey, when did you have this idea of breaking up a house and converting it into, instead of using the term HMOs, you were actually breaking them down into flats?
Well, when I refurbished the first property I ever bought, and I did a total gut job on it, I just refurbished it as was, without really thinking it through first. It's worked, it's rented out fine, it's been no problem. But during that process, I began to think about what I should be doing with some of my other properties. I'd only ever bought properties initially that I could add value to, and I tried to add value to the properties by splitting them into smaller properties. A lot of the properties I bought, let's say for instance, would have naturally been 8, 9, 10, 11 bed HMOs. But I realised that the future, although at the time I could let to 8, 9, 10, 11 people, in the future people wouldn't want to share with that number of people. People would want to share with lower numbers. So if I could make 8, 9, 10, 11 properties into 1 bed, 2 bed, 3 bed, 4 bed units, the sustainability of my letting paradigm would be greatly improved. So I looked at various properties that I then owned. I looked how I could add extensions, how I could add loft conversions, how I could split them up into various units. So although I owned very big properties, the properties all consisted of smaller units that were far more viable, both for letting and for maintenance. Even for maintenance, you see, once you split your property up into various units, you only have to knock a bit of it at a time when it comes to your rolling maintenance program. So there are lots and lots of advantages.